back to another episode of Are You Not Entertained? We're breaking our chain. Normally, we don't speak when Spurs do poorly, but I think it's about time we do. We're almost forced to. In my opinion, actually, this is a bit of an agony session. Me, Peter, and Ollie are going to come together.
We should be laid out on one of those leather couches, telling everyone our feelings.
Absolutely. It's a therapy session, agony aunts at the ready. We're just going to get through it and really try and figure out what's going wrong, what we think we should do moving forward. Because I think a lot of the time, all you see is everyone saying, oh, that's crap, that's rubbish, that's wrong. But no one ever says what they would do differently or what the answer is. Only a few people tend to do that. So let's go into it. I mean, obviously, we've just lost 3 games on the spin. I mean, the form's been horrendous for ages. What is it? Two or 3 wins in the last 10, 11 games or something of that ilk. It's pretty, it's got awful. It's the sort of form that Pochettino got sacked for, if we're honest. And Mourinho doesn't really have as much money in the bank at this club. He does have money in the bank from previous tenures. But we're going to go through like a few. I've got some quotes that I'll share with you guys at some point. But I've not asked how you are, because I know how you are. You're miserable like me. Boys, you're sad and you're down and you know it. So let's just get into it. I mean, Pete, I'm going to come to you first. I mean, the first thing we'll talk about was just not specifically the 3 games because they're much of a likeness, but what from you watching them, what's the game plan? What do you think those players are being told to do, and how much do you lay the blame on the players? And then let's talk about Mourinho as well.
In terms of performances, I blame it pretty much. Well, I don't know. It's difficult. I mostly blame it on Mourinho. Because these players have very clearly been told to sit in a shape, and that is what you do. And then we'll get it to Harry Kane, who will save the day. And that's obviously not the case with Harry Kane out injured. So it just seems like, even in the second half against Chelsea, where the other 2 games were just flat throughout, the second half was a bit more positive. We were a bit more expansive, a bit more open, but it was just clueless. It was like Mourinho said to them, you have to press more. You have to do more pressing. And they're going, we haven't worked on this. We haven't done a single thing on pressing or attacking shape or anything. We know that we sit deep and we try and spring on a counter. And that was evident in times when Son turned, I think it's Azpilicueta, and went and looked up and went, shit, I don't know what to do. Now, that sounds stupid because these are professional footballers and they are the attacking players that we have are quality attacking players. So they should be able to do something with it. But he's looked up and gone, well, I've got Vinicius to feet. And then he's got nothing because everyone else is defending because they're holding this shape that is getting drilled into them. The press was clueless. The attacking threat is clueless. There is no real plan in my mind other than sit and break if you can. And if it's not a break, it's pump it long. And even that's counterproductive in that you're bypassing your best footballer in Tanga and Ndombele by playing him in a 10 and pumping it long. So why not play him deeper? Why not let him pick it up and let him break the counter press and get something going that way? Because at the minute, he's getting bypassed and it's going long and nothing's coming of it. And Vinicius, bless him, I don't know what I think of him. I've not seen enough of him. He's playing in a team that is bereft of confidence, is not built to play attacking football. And he, like you said the other day, Jez, you just know that Mourinho is blaming him for so many attacks breaking down when you're thinking, the kid's not had a chance. Like, he's getting balls pumped into his chest, up to his head, up long. He's not really getting the opportunity to show what he's got. So to me, it's 90% Mourinho in terms of the way we attack is awful because he's so defensive. And 10% the players just don't look interested. And I think it looks like the dressing room's gone. But that's my opinion.
Yeah, the dressing room is like debatable. I think we'll definitely go into that a bit more. Just taking it back a little bit. So like the Liverpool game, well, if you just look at all of them, really, I mean, the Liverpool, Brighton, Chelsea, or even further back than that, seemingly to me, the plan is nearly always the same in its essence, which, like you say, Peter, is just to be very deep and long balls, which I don't understand, but that seems to be the game plan. And it looks like each time Mourinho goes, oh, well, something's not working here. But I'll tell you what, it's not the plan. It's not what I've designed. It's the players. So he changes the players a little bit. And everyone's moaning about like no centre back partnership has worked, 3 centre backs doesn't work, etc. I would argue that no partnership will work until one is just trusted to settle. Because if you keep changing where they are and who's playing at centre half, and you play a fullback, go to the Liverpool game, Doherty playing left wing back, Davis playing left centre half, and keeping Toby out of the team to play free. You can say these things are wrong and you disagree with them if you say it before the game, which is what we did. We said this is not what you want to do. I don't understand why this. I had a bit of an argument with some guy on Twitter, didn't I? And he was trying to say Doherty's actually going to be the third centre back. I was saying, regardless, still play Toby. That doesn't matter in the slightest. So if you say that this is something you don't think is correct, and you say it before the game, you're well in your rights after the game to say Mourinho got it wrong. If you say that you agree with the lineup, and then after the game be like, "Oh, that's stupid what Mourinho did," then it's ridiculous. It's all soonish to me. So we've been saying these things before, and I just don't understand the idea of the fans who say, well, Mourinho's won trophies, you've never won trophies, so you can't give that opinion. Well, of course you can, because what's the point of debating or speaking about anything if you have to just bow down and say, do you know what, he's always correct because he's been right in the past. So I think that's the thing. The fan base, like, going into a bit deeper, sorry guys, but in the world, I think we've lost the ability to debate with each other and listen to each other's points. It's just, well, it's either right or wrong. You're either left or right or whatever. I've done the wrong ones. You're either left or right, if you ask me. But yeah, it just baffles me watching the Twitter sphere as people talk about it. But Ollie, let's come to you. So, like the Liverpool one, take away the ridiculous choice of players. Actually, let's just roll through. So, coming into Brighton, that performance to me was the one where I was going, oh, that's a performance of a dressing room lost. And it obviously came just off the back of the Aurier rumour of, well, confirmed that he left at half time, bit of a bust up, popular figure. How much do you think Mourinho still has the dressing room? And what do you think, if you're looking at it logically, what do you think's going on? Do you think he has certain players who still like him, certain players who don't, or do you think as a whole they're starting to lose them?
I think it's hard because you couldn't ever say that a footballer isn't playing for their manager. I think that's difficult. I think irrespective of who you are, I think you're always going to try to some degree. However, I think in the minute, we're definitely, I mean, Mourinho did say that we are a team without confidence, and that is blatantly obvious. There is absolutely no confidence on that pitch. And you see, like you boys have said about, we're drilled in a defensive manner, which is fine. However, when players get on the ball, they're so sort of not used to having the ball that they just give it away. I mean, the amount of mistakes that we make is scary, really. I mean, you look at the sort of the mistakes that we make that lead to goals, the mistakes that, put passes straight out. I mean, even in the game last night, you saw the amount of passes that went out for a throw-in or out for a goal kick, just weren't on point at all. And I mean, it's always hard because you can't blame that on Mourinho, but you could loop it back to Mourinho. Do you see what I mean? Like this, that type of.
I think, I agree with you. I think he saps your confidence.
Yeah.
If your manager is saying to you, you're not good enough to go toe to toe with this football team. You're not good enough to go toe to toe with Brighton and Hove Albion. You have to stay in a defensive shape. Human nature is, to start with, I'll go, yes, I am. I'm good enough to do that. And then it'll be constantly in your back of your mind. Maybe I'm not good enough. Maybe he's right. And that is just a negative spiral for me, the way he sets you up, the way he tells you that you cannot play football against this side. You have to sit deep and then counter, because that's all we're good for. We are not good enough to play football and break teams down, so we're going to do it this way. I think that's... Go on.
Are you saying that obviously that the players got that in their mind and that's why they're playing badly? Like they're misplacing passes because of what he's saying?
No, I think the pressure's ramped up.
Right.
So I think what he's saying is you're not good enough to go and play football against this team. So what we'll do is we'll sit back and we will spring on them and we'll counter. And how many times do you get an opportunity to do that really, really well in a game? 3. So you have to make that count. So the pressure is on. As soon as you've got that football, you have to make a killer pass and you have to get us going. Because if you don't, this plan won't work. So the pressure is ramped up. The negativity is ramped up. I think he's... I don't want to use the word toxic, but I feel like he is.
I don't know. I feel like that some people thrive in that environment. The group of players we have at Tottenham, I think are pretty sort of spoiled in that sense. Like they've always crumbled under pressure. So to put them in that position is probably a bad idea because they haven't got an experience of winning. They haven't got an experience of, sort of going against all odds. You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know. I don't know about that one. I think like that's, yeah.
If
I
I
feel
could
like
chime in, I was on Pete's point from like a personal experience of teams I've played in. I've played in attacking teams and I've played in defensive sides. For example, we're both of these mid-table teams, so same sort of level, same sort of finishing in the table each year. So like St Albans, to throw a name, when we're playing reserves for them, but playing for them, we played quite attacking football when it was exciting, and I would say my touch was better, and I played as a better player, kept the ball better, moved better, etc. For Hatfield, we played very defensive football, and I think I've said before, I started to forget how to attack. I was playing as a wing back in both teams, and in the Hatfield one, I started to lose myself. I go into the other half and not really know what to do because all I'd been drilled to do was to stay in my shape and to not let my winger get the better of me. So then when it came to actually being told, and I think Mourinho may be doing this, today you can be a bit more expansive. Today you can get forward more. Today you can press a bit. It was foreign. And it was totally different. I couldn't remember how to do it, and it was uncomfortable. And like when Pete said, when we got the ball in the more defensive setup, and we did try and break, the pressure was up because if you lost that ball, you're probably not going to get it again for ages. So I do think there is a point to that because I can remember it very vividly being in these teams and thinking these to myself and then going to play Sunday League because I wasn't enjoying it so much in that defensive setup. I was like, I'd rather play with my mates and play Sunday League. And I make the comparisons to this a bit as well. Like maybe this could bring you success, but is it fun? How long can it be tenable? And how long can you sort of endure it as a player? And I'll tell you what, let me throw a quote to you guys actually that I read today, and I didn't even go searching this. My phone is just throwing me misery, I think, and trying to make me upset. But I saw a quote from Samuel Eto'o, and it's from a few years back, like when Mourinho, I think, had just started at United or he was somewhat in United. And it says, Jose has changed a lot. I discovered someone exceptional when I came to Inter. At Chelsea, it was already becoming a bit difficult. He asked for 3 years to relaunch Manchester United, but you have to get your team playing. You can't defend continually. Football isn't like that anymore. Let's be clear. I've got nothing against Jose. He is able to pick someone and tell him you are the best, and he'll have a very good game. But football is evolving. And that's a few years ago, and that made me go like, Christ, that's horrible to read. That Eto'o, when he played for him at Chelsea, was thinking your time is running out. Like you're starting, your way of football may become more difficult. I'm not saying Eto'o is an oracle who all wise and all knowing, but I was just surprised to read it. So
he's got that other quote, isn't he, Eto'o, where he says that I'll only play on the left wing for Mourinho, or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Is he?
He said, someone said like, would you play on the left wing or whatever, and he was like, no, I do that for Mourinho, which is because he loved him, which is why it hit me a bit more because I was like, oh Christ, he's genuinely a massive fan of Mourinho. He's not trying to dig him out in the slightest. He's just giving an opinion. So what I wanted to ask off the back of that is, how much do you think, and I'm not calling Mourinho a dinosaur or anything like that, but football is changing, and not just football, but the people in it. The players are, with want of a better word, a bit more like emotional. they're a bit softer than they were before, let's say, and it may not always be the case, but it's harder to slam someone now without them having a reaction that's probably going to be negative. So is Mourinho's way of thinking, is the way he reacts and the way he falls out with the players and tests them, is he testing people that 9 times out of 10 aren't going to pass? That's sort of my question. So, Ollie, what do you make of that? Because I've seen a few debates on this, and it does worry me that I just think the modern footballer needs to have a hug, needs to have an arm around their shoulder and be looked after and be told, "Go play."
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think there's a lot of evidence to sort of suggest that the way Mourinho plays football and the way that he gets results, it's built for a very particular type of mentality and type of person. And those type of footballers don't exist anymore, or are in a dying nature. I would put possibly in our team, Kane in that, Højbjerg in that, maybe Sonny, maybe Lloris, maybe in that sort of.
They're winners.
Yeah, are inbuilt, and they just want to win. I don't care who gets in their way. And I think every other player thinks they're like that, but aren't really like that. Now I think you see a lot. I know for me, I think that's life, though, right? I mean, you get people who brought up in different environments of different ways of thinking, and to be very sort of generic, you look at people, like England players, for example, versus players that come from places like Argentina, Brazil, where there's a lot more issues in terms of sort of like economic issues, stuff like that. And you grow up in England, you're a privileged person from the get-go, so that desire to win is a lot harder to create. And possibly Kane's got that from the fact that he was written off at every level he'd ever played at. But so circling back to Mourinho, I think that's very difficult. And there's a very clear downward spiral since he was at Madrid. I mean, you look at any of the sort of the win percentages and stuff, and the first four. So I think they split it into the 2 decades of his management, something like that. But the first 4 clubs he was at was exceptional. sort of 70% win percentage, all that sort of stuff. And then you get to United and it drops down to like 65, 60 at Chelsea again, and then again and again. And at Spurs, we're like 50%, and it's like the lowest ever had. So there is definitely a question over his sort of magic, maybe you call it, if you want to call it that, like how his demeanour is and his sort of star is certainly not as bright as it used to be, that's for sure.
No, I agree. And I know that in his press conference, I didn't get to watch it yet, but I saw a few quotes, and he has come out and said something on the lines of, when was the last time Spurs won a title? 61 or whatever. I think that's correct. Maybe I can bring one. So it's kind of like I feel like he's in his head going like, don't give up on me. And whether that's for the fans' benefits or for those above. Just
to add to that, Jez, I've actually wrote that quote down because I love that. It's quite an interesting quote. They actually said the question was, that was the first time that Spurs have lost 3 games in a row since 2012. And Mourinho's reply was, when was the last time they won a title? And they said 61. And he goes, well, maybe I can bring them one. That was how the actual sort of back and forth went. So it was a case of they were making a point that we'd lost 3 games in a row. And he said, well, when was the last time we won a title?
And you'd love to believe, wouldn't you? But at the moment, you'd be a fool to. I mean, for example, like we done our, not to call you a fool, Ollie, but we done our predictions for the Chelsea game. And of course, did you say we would win 2-1? 2-1, yeah. I just thought, why do you think we're going to score? Like Pete went 0-0, I went 2-0 loss. I think most of the votes agreed with me. I watched a bit of a very quick clip on We Are Tottenham TV just to see what they might predict, and they both voted that we might win. And I just thought, why?
Yeah.
Optimism, Jerry. Optimism.
But what you do, like, that's again blind faith.
Stupidity.
Blind faith. That worries me. It concerns me. It's like it concerns me in all things. Like if we just blindly follow, well, you should always wear your hat on your left shoe when you go to do your groceries. All right, cheers. That's probably what we and just trust that that's what you've got to do. You can't just blindly follow things. You have to question things and truly understand them. So I just didn't understand why people thought we were going to get a result, because all logic said that we won't. So when Mourinho says maybe I could win him a title, everything I'm seeing right now tells me you can't. And I just
the eye test. We talk about it all the time.
The eye test says that. How could you? Pete, I've got another. We're loving quotes today. I've got a quote. Well, not actually. It's not even an exact quote. But I listened to Redknapp talking about Bale, just to go into Bale a little bit, guys. Because I think it is interesting. That one you definitely can't completely blame on Mourinho, because he looks like bereft of ideas, doesn't he, Bale? He looks like an absolute shadow of his former self. But Redknapp was talking about Bale, and he said, what you need to understand about Gareth is, he said, he's not one of those superstars who's confident. He said, at first he was like, he's not got an ego. He said, he's not even a confident lad. He said, he's naturally quite a shy guy, He doesn't really believe in himself. And he said that what he used to do in training, he was like, I'll just put a donkey up against him. I'll get a donkey to go and play right back. And I'd say to him, go on, Bale, you beat him again. You're in top form, boy. You're
I
absolutely
love that because there's a bunch of old Spurs defenders sitting watching Harry Redknapp and Sky Sports going, I used to go up against Gary. Oh, no.
Who do you reckon it is? Who's sitting there going, every week he put me up against
Vedran Luca.
Oh, no. It's a good shout. He would
get Carl Norton, maybe.
Yeah, well, yeah. But I just love that Redknapp, because that's what he was, wasn't he? Master motivator. By no means can he hold a torch to Mourinho in terms of tactics. And he was not digging Mourinho out in the slightest, by the way. He was just saying how he
was just putting his hat in the ring for the rest of the season. I'll get the best out of Gareth Bale for you. Don't you worry about that, Daniel.
and I believe he'd have a better shot. But
yeah,
this goes back to the idea of like how Mourinho deals with players and how he motivates them, etc. And Bale, despite everything he's won, probably is another one of those guys who's a little bit sensitive. He's got a couple of years out. He needs growing. He needs motivating. He needs belief. And he's getting very little minutes. But I would say, off of that, when I watched him come off in the Brighton game, I gave up on him a bit because he looked so keen to get off that pitch. Like he felt like it was a blessing. Thank you, Lord, for taking me off. But my question, I suppose, Pete, to yourself is: with the Bale scenario, how would you be handling it? Would you be doing it the way Mourinho is and giving him Bale? Would you be looking to give him as much minutes as possible? How would you try to get this guy playing? Because surely there's a player in there. He can't be having the Torres Space Jam all over again. Like there must be something there.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you give him minutes and he doesn't prove anything, so he doesn't deserve minutes. But you want to get him playing, so you've got to give him minutes. So it's a vicious circle, and I think it's really difficult. And I agree with you. I don't blame Mourinho on this one. I think this is. But then I suppose it depends. Like you go off the back of, is he doing the right? Is he motivating him the right way? The way he's talking to him. Was it him that he was talking about when he said, "Do you want to go and not play at Madrid, or do you want to stay here and play? What do you want to do?" Is that going to get him going? Like it's difficult. I think for me, I would just have brought him on. I'd have brought him on against Chelsea and said, "Look, go and do something. Play him through the middle, mix it up." He's obviously not doing it from the right, so just go and play him through the middle and see what happens. And say to it, and like for me, I'd be going to him, go and win this game for me. I'll try and give him confidence that way, not chuck him on and say, "Look, you've got to stay in your shape, block him if he goes, and if you can get up the other end and get on the counter, then do that." I'll be saying to him, get on that pitch and win me this game. Do what you have to do. You can go in the middle. You can do what you want. Go and get me a goal because you're good enough, and try and get him going that way. Because other than that, what else can you do? It is a lot of it is, like you say, down to the players and their attitudes. But the psyche is difficult. Like we were saying, the stuff we were saying earlier, the difference between being told don't concede and your mental state then when you're playing football to go and score me goals is so different. So the fact that when a ball comes into you and is fizzed into your feet and you're told don't concede, you're going, don't mess it up, keep the ball. If you're told go and attack, go and score me goals, your first thought is, right, what am I doing now with the ball? I'm moving it, I'm doing it quick, I'm sharp. And it is all just, I think the whole thing is down to his negative kind of philosophy on football. I really do. I think everything that's going on at the minute spins back to that.
Team playing with fear instead of like excitement of what they can do, what they can provide. I wanted to just talk a couple pieces of, if we go just the Chelsea game because that's the most recent, just a couple of tactical decisions that I found slightly strange. I mean, in fact, you can even take this back to the Liverpool game. I thought it was, I don't know how even to describe it, but it was just ludicrous that Trent Alexander is in bad form, right? He scored against us, but he was in bad form until he had
Is it man of the match against us?
But yeah, he's been bad and he's been caught out constantly. And we decided to have Sonny play centrally and not go at him. I don't know why we did that. And I still can't understand why that was the idea. I mean, I get that they had a centre-back that wasn't doing so well. But the centre-back, if I remember rightly, especially in the second half, was the right side centre-half. That's the gap between the full-back and that centre-back. So why not let Sonny exploit that? And then we come to the Chelsea game. Why was Bergwijn marking one of their centre mids? And we just said the fullbacks have as much space as you like. In fact, come on to us as much as you can. We're not going to press. We're just going to let you get there, and then we're looking to counter, but not really having an idea of counter long ball. But yeah, I just wanted to ask you guys what you thought the thinking was for Bergwijn to go in there and do that. Tanguy was then also seemingly man marking Jorginho. So it goes back to what you're saying, Pete. Everything that probably worked on in training was this is how they're going to attack us. We're going to man mark them in this way. But then you've got no idea of how to counter attack and get out of it because you're following that man. And then as soon as you win the ball, you've got to go, oh shit, I'm over in centre mid now. I'm a winger. I've got to go get out wide. Like, I just don't understand it. Some of the tactical decisions, I should be lauding Mourinho and thinking he's a genius, but every game I'm thinking I don't know why you're doing that, and maybe it's because I'm thick and he's a genius, but I just see it and I think that's not what I would do, and because of that, I find it very hard to be on his side and to defend him. And at the end of the game, when at the start of the game I'll go back to it, I'm saying I think this is wrong. At the end of the game, I can't really say, but he did do this. He was correct in this. So I wonder what you guys thought. Like, in fact, Ollie Peters kind of given his stint there, but tactically, what do you think Mourinho wants to see compared to what he is seeing?
I think Mourinho's tactics are very dependent on the type of player that he has at his disposal. He needs players who how best to describe this? You look at our defence, right? And that is not a Mourinho defence at all. Not for one question of that. We've got so many mistakes in that team. And that just shows how mentally fragile they are and or how poor they are as a footballer. You look at Eric Dyer, the amount of mistakes that he makes. You look at Joe Rodon's come in, made mistakes. You look at Davinson Sanchez, mistakes. Alderweireld's making mistakes. Like, this is just unheard of for Alderweireld in particular. In the last two games, we've booked to both games for sprinting out from the back four to try and nick the ball. And I've never seen him do that ever before. Or at least do it as badly as he's doing it. So part of it, I think, is definitely Mourinho. But part of it is definitely the players. I mean, some of them just aren't as good as we think they are. And I think that's a big problem. I think I saw quite an interesting point about Levy and appointing Mourinho. And it was almost like he thinks our team is better than it is. So he thinks a new manager was the answer, when actually we need about 15 new players. And you can't do that because that costs hundreds of millions of quid. So we'd rather spend the money and get an outstanding manager or a previously outstanding manager who can try and get a tune out of these players. And lo and behold, 12 months later, nothing's changed. They're still the same players. They're still making mistakes, and they're still possibly going to cost another manager their job. So part of it, to me, feels like, I just don't think these players are good enough sometimes. I think that's just it. I think you can blame Mourinho all you want in that degree, but the players aren't good enough. Like, our defence is not good enough. We drop deep because they're scared to get caught behind, because they're scared to get caught behind. They don't back themselves in 1v1s. So your midfielders have to drop, which makes you wide players have to drop, which your striker have to drop. So it's a lot of problems in the Spurs team, I think, and I do blame Mourinho, but I don't blame him at the same time, because I think the squad that he inherited is a lot worse than we thought it was. So with his tactics, sorry, Pete. One last comment, Pete. With his tactics of you have to cover your mate, which is great. The fact is they're so far away. You've got to track so far back to get them. And that we've seen many comments in the Amazon documentary. We talked about players being like, hand their head down and they're not looking, they're not mamaking the passes. There was an infamous blah 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 blah, and you can see that. You can see that from the team. And no, it's just a shame.
Yeah, I agree though. Recruitment has not been good.
No.
If you go back to Poch's team when it was playing the best football, you had Lloris, Walker, Toby, Vertonghen, Danny Rose. Of them, Lloris obviously still plays. Toby still plays. We've not replaced Kyle Walker. Yeah. We've not replaced Jan Vertonghen. I say we've replaced Danny Rose with Reguilon.
Yeah. So
that's great. You had in front of them, you had Dembele and Wanyama. Yeah. And I actually think we've replaced those two pretty well in Højbjerg and Tanguy, obviously. And then your front three, or your three behind Kane, you had Son, fine, he's still there. You had Eriksen and Dele Alli playing, and we now don't have a number 10 Bergwijn, has he replaced them two-ish, maybe? Not in an attacking sense. He's doing a great job for us defensively. There's a lot of gaps in that team that need replacing, that haven't been fixed. And saying that Toby's still there is fine, but he's playing alongside Dross, which makes his life so much harder when he was playing against, in my opinion, and a lot of people won't agree with me, a better centre-half than he is. So how's he supposed to look good next to awful centre-halves? And then on the other side of him, he's got a fullback, either in Matt Doherty or Serge Aurier, that he literally has no idea what you're going to do. So how can no matter how good he is, what's around him is not good enough. I agree with you. I think recruitment is a big issue.
We should say, or just on the recruitment side, that Levy, to be fair to him, a lot of people were tweeting, everyone was praising. I know I was, that the last transfer window, like 9 out of 10. Great job. Everyone was obviously buzzing about Bale. This has not come to like anywhere near what our dreams were saying. But we're like Reguilon, fantastic signing. We were thinking with the addition of Højbjerg that's filled a massive hole. That we brought in our backup striker, which Mourinho for a moment said, I refuse to play that backup striker. Even who was purely brought in for when Kane gets injured.
Even though he's my number one target the whole time.
Yeah. Exactly. And then it just seemed to give him a hard time. I mean, obviously got Joe Hart. He ticks a lot of boxes, whether people liked it or not. Who am I forgetting? Sorry, from
Joe Rodon, Doherty.
And we called that, by the way, with Joe Hart, that he would leap in front of Gazaniga in the pecking order. And Gazaniga's obviously now gone out on loan. So point to us.
No, absolutely. But the point is that people are so fickle. I'm now seeing tweets of Mourinho's not the problem. The players aren't the problem. This guy is, and pictures of Levy. When just at the start of this season, everyone was praising him for what a great job he'd done on a shoestring budget and been able to solve a lot of the problems. Doherty, another one, that's not gone to plan. But if we're all honest, look at his stats last season. He was a fantastic right wing back. And I stand by the fact that I'm pretty certain the plan was, until Reguilon happened of a sort of opportunistic moment, that we were going to carry on playing that lopsided where he was going to be that right wing back. And then things changed and we ended up being able to play two fullbacks that could do somewhat of attack and do a fullback's job, which is everything. And Doherty's been uncomfortable, but again, he's not able to play much. It's frustrating.
Do a fullback's job, which is everything. Did I mention that I used to play at fullback, by the way?
I've been known to play at
I've dabbled at fullback.
I
think with that, Jez, I think, yes, like with this really good business, got some good players in and shifted some players out. But there's still so much to do. I mean, there's still so much like Deadwood in our team and so many gaps in our start 11 that you could fill with
I've got notes in my pad, Ollie, that says Deadwood.
Perfect.
And who I want out.
Who's on your who's on your Deadwood list, Peter?
Doherty, unfortunately for him, I think it's a one season and gone job. I don't see how he turns it around. Out.
Gone, isn't it?
Yep. Davis, I don't care what anyone says. If he's as a fullback, he's not good enough. And if you're going to keep him on the basis that he might every now and then play the left-hand side of three centre halves, he's not worth keeping around. I don't know how many passes he completed yesterday. And people will say, well, Sonny was too far away from him. But to me, he's not good enough. And even if you say he's steady Eddie, he still makes too many mistakes in a game for me to be happy.
I think he was targeted yesterday, by the way.
Because he gets beat so easy. Pace, he's got no pace at all. So I'd like to see. And to be fair, why keep him when you've got Sessegnon coming back at the end of the season? Yep. Got Reguilon and Sessegnon, perfect, much better for me. Dyer, yeah, God hope Reggie stays. Dyer gone, Lucas Moura gone, Lamela gone.
Coke spoon.
Yeah, I know. We'd all miss his stories of his Coke spoon, but yeah, I'd get rid of him.
To be fair to him, he was our best player last night.
He was. He does that though. That's all he does. He comes over 20 minutes, buzzes around, looks really good, gets a start, and then absolutely stinks the place out.
Yeah.
And then gets injured and then gets on the drugs again.
But that's the thing, inconsistencies. But then the other thing is I might keep Lamela under a different manager. I'd be tempted to keep him, but
so here's what I've got in terms of the start 11. What I think are a viable long-term start 11. So Lloris for now, but we're going to need a new goalkeeper because Joe Hart's not good enough. Gazaniga's not good enough, so we're going to have to buy someone at some point. In defence, Reguilon.
Is that actually it?
Yeah, in the midfield, I would no, Højbjerg and Dombele and Lo Celso are a three that could be really good, I think. But they can't all be fit at the same time. When they were all fit, Mourinho hated Ndombele. He didn't like Lo Celso to start with either. And then Son and Kane, and that's it. I can't think we need potentially a number 10 in there, a right midfielder, and a new back four, pretty much.
Stevie Bergwijn's nearly world class, though.
He is nearly world class if he could shoot, pass, and make a decision in the final third.
I think Bergwijn, for me, and I know he gets a lot of flack, but going back to the eye test, I watch Bergwijn, and Peter, I've also played on the wing.
Have you? Have you?
You know, but I watch Bergwijn, and I genuinely think there's a player there, a proper.
He's almost world class.
Almost world class. But all jokes aside, I think he's a talent. I think he has something. He's terrific. His first touch is fantastic. He's great at dribbling. In that Chelsea game, in my opinion, he was one of the few players who could look semi-dangerous when he was actually coming out. Yeah. I think remove the shackles from him, and again, under a different manager, I believe he could be a big player for us. So Stevie is someone that I would put a bit of faith in if I was coming.
Yeah, I like him a lot.
So to sort of tail this therapy session off, let's kind of say what we would do, or where would you want to go? So I think the big question is, do you stick with the manager if you're leaving? And then regardless of that, if you're coming as a new manager, or if you're Mourinho himself, if you're the manager of this team, what would you do? How would you change it? What do you think is the most effective way? Because I think we're all agreeing, in my opinion, whether you think it's more Mourinho's fault or more the players' fault, we are agreeing there's a problem with the tactics and the system and the players themselves. So with this group of players, if you're coming in, I think a proactive and a good manager doesn't come in stubbornly and say, this is how I play, so I'm going to put some square pegs in some round holes. You would build your system around the players that you have. And Mourinho obviously is set in his ways, and that's how he plays. A lot of managers are like that. But how would we do it? So, Ollie, if you're, first of all, would you carry on with Mourinho at this point? I suppose you Jose in or Jose out. And regardless of that, what would you do with the team? What would you change?
I think you give him the season. He's got the players that he wanted. We are in all the cups still. He's probably going to win you a cup. League Cup, FA Cup, whatever, Europa League, something like that. I think he'll get us a cup. What I hate about that is that it justifies his method, which I don't agree with. However, in the summer, I think I personally think Levy's got a big decision to make, because he either needs another Pochettino to come in and overhaul the team, because it needs it. I mean, you look at that, when Poch took over, that team was bad. And he managed to get some good players in, foster the right talent, and build a team. You know, and we badly need that. I mean, looking at we haven't got a suitable defence to be where we would like to be, and where the ownership would like us to be, where our stadium needs us to be. So I think there's two options really. I think you let Mourinho get who he wants in, which is going to be a couple of commanding centre halves, and some sort of a very defensive fullback, that type of thing, and you let him to do his thing properly, and properly back him again, because he still if whoever comes in, they need backing. So either you stick with Mourinho after he's won you a cup and maybe got some pressure off that way, or you go completely off key and you get like a Nagelsmann or someone like that who's a young attacking manager, all that type of stuff. I mean, as a Spurs fan, obviously we want the attacking football that we kind of want to have and want to watch. I mean, at the minute, it's just such a depressing time watching Spurs. And for me, I know winning trophies are great, but winning the League Cup is not what I watch. I don't watch football to win one cup. That's the League Cup. I'd rather be entertained to a decent amount most weeks. You know what I mean? Rather than have to sit through dross to then watch us win a cup. So for me, I'd give him the season, see what happens, let it unfold, tell the squad that he's here to stay, and you play for him when you don't play, and see if he can turn around the Dele Alli situation, see what happens when Kane comes back, see if we can get him a centre half. Well, we're not going to get a centre half now, are we? But see what he can do. Give a partnership a chance. Give Alderweireld, Rodon, someone like that a chance who can learn. I think Eric Dyer is Dyer, and Sanchez clearly isn't trusted for his mistakes. He's had a lot of opportunities, and he's let managers down a lot. You look at Poch, you look at Mourinho, he's let them both down, I think, in terms of being able to rely on him for a consistent amount of time. He has really good games and really bad games, and it's really like that's as a centre half, you can't be that inconsistent. So for me, given the season,
what centre half was that? What centre half was that?
Sanchez.
Yeah, no.
I think he's far too inconsistent. I mean, yes, he's got attributes to be a phenomenal centre back. I'm just not sure he's got the brain to be, which is the problem.
Yeah, he's not good. He's not become what we expected of what he should have become. He's been here for a long time now as well.
That first season where he was between Alderweireld and Tongan, he looked like an unbelievable player. And we thought, Christ, you've got a player in. And then he got put on his own in the two, and you're okay. Problem.
Absolutely. Pete, what would you do? And tell you what, especially in terms of, Mourinho, would you keep him, would you not? And then if you're getting rid of him, who you're replacing him with? And then what's the answer right now? If you're not, for example, sacking him, but I'm wondering if you might, what is the immediate answer in terms of you can't buy someone right now, so what can you do?
My thing at the minute is Harry Kane. So I think if you sack Mourinho, to convince Harry Kane to stay in the summer becomes really, really hard, because you're then saying to him, you now have to buy into another new project. So you couldn't do it with Poch, who we gave time, who cultivated this whole new philosophy as a club, changed the way we played dynamic, attacking, high press football, and that didn't work. So what we did is we brought in a serial winner, and that didn't work. So now you have to buy into another project, and that could take 2 seasons, 3 seasons, whatever. So you're going to do that? You're going to stay and do that with us, or are you going to want to go to City and win things? Because even as a Spurs fan, I couldn't begrudge him that. I'd be gutted, and I'm hoping that he loves Spurs enough that he stays forever, but you just never know. But then you also got the thing of people saying, well, it took Klopp 4 years to get Liverpool going, so why can't we do that with Mourinho? Because the attitude's different. Like, Klopp does not foster this toxic, negative football. He got them, yes, they were losing games, but at least they were playing football, and I guarantee they were still enjoying doing it. Whereas if you said to Harry Kane, you've got to do this for 4 years, and then you might win a league title, I'd be like, go away, I'm not doing that. That's mental. So I'd get rid. I would. And the only thing that's saving him, or I think firstly, Harry Kane is saving him by being injured, because how do you justify sacking a manager when their best player is missing? And the other thing that's saving him is his wage, because to pay off his contract is going to be an absolute killer. But
only a 3-year deal there, right?
Yeah, but
only what? 20 mil?
He'd be on. I think he'd be on.
He's on 15 mil a year, isn't he? So he's halfway through. That's
15. You say? Mm. Well, I mean that's what I would do. But then you've also got to think: is it worth finishing 8th or lower on the form that you're currently on to win the League Cup? I also think, annoyingly, if you bring in another manager, it doesn't bother me this much though, because it's just the League Cup. But if you bring in another manager, Mourinho is the only one who could probably beat Pep, because they're turning it on. So he'll just get you to sit in, and you might. We seem to be a bit of their bogey team for him. I think if you bring in another manager who says, let's go play attacking football, you probably lose that game. But it's the League Cup. And I would rather bring in a new manager, refresh it, and actually for Levy, the gamble is if you can do that and get into the Champions League, which at the minute you're not going to do, then it's justified. If you can get like Chelsea, fair enough, it's brutal. And I thought it was out of order to sack Frank Lampard. But in terms of business, if Tuchel gets him into the Champions League, then it's good business. It's smart business. The only thing, like you're saying, is who do you go and get? And who do you go and get that wants to come to Spurs and leave their current job? So you were saying about the Leipzig manager, but they're flying high at the top of the table. Is he going to want to leave that project halfway through a season? Absolutely not. Is Brendan Rodgers going to want to leave Leicester halfway through a season when they could potentially go and get a second title? Absolutely not. So unless you're going to say, fancy it, Ledley or Harry, like, which doesn't make any sense. So I think he will stay. I think I've almost changed my mind on it. You have to keep Mourinho because there's no one to replace him. But I think it needs freshening up. I think his style of football, what baffles me is he's gone, right, we're a super defensive team, but that's the weakest point in your team. Like, why would you go, let's be super defensive when our defenders are poor? Try and be expansive and attacking and let your best players do what they do and score goals and create. And you go, no, we're going to get everyone to do that. So you're really bad at defending. So we're going to get everyone that's good at attacking to help you defend. I don't get it. So yeah, I think he will stay till the end of the season. I would get rid of him now and just put someone young in. Let Yao Sacramento have a go at it. Why not? Just, it needs changing, in my opinion. That's what I would do.
My only question, sorry, Jez, in talking about Chelsea, it's the squad they've got is phenomenal. You know, he's got players like Rudiger and that who weren't even the squad of Lampard, who are very, very good players, and they are good players. Getting brought back in, we haven't got that. Our problem is we haven't got the players to change the manager. I don't think personally.
Well, I mean, there's argument against that. I mean, you could say that potentially a new manager comes in, he's exactly what Dele Alli needs, he's exactly what Bale needs, and he breathes fire into those players and brings them back in. Maybe someone comes in and gets Doherty playing because obviously he played excellently under Santos, but horrendously under Jose Mourinho. So, by the way, he's someone that I wouldn't mind at Spurs, Nunes, but I wouldn't be jumping the gun to go and get him because I think it's a gamble. It's a possible gamble. Like, Wolves haven't had a great season. All being said, Jimenez obviously being injured. So, but you'd be thinking, well, if you can't do it without your striker at Wolves, you're gonna have to come and do that here because we lose our striker every season. So
yeah. But Dele Alli, sorry to go back on that. Dele Alli as well. Just a quick mention of him. How are you expecting players to? This is more of Jose's toxicity. How are you expecting players to go out and express themselves in an attacking way when you've got a number 10 who likes to play expressive football, and you absolutely cane him for losing the ball trying something? Like, that to me feels like grassroots football in England at a young level, where they go, no, it's like, no, don't try flicks and tricks there. Don't do stupid things there. You get rid of it. Get it up the pitch. Come on, man. Like, how are you going to foster this thing in young English footballers where they're going to play football and then we'll always get stuck, not get grief because we're not as technically gifted as players on the continent? Because, in Spain, they're not telling people to get rid and they're not having to go at them for trying a flick or a trick here and there. So how are you expecting your players to go out and go, yes, we can attack teams. Our manager believes in us or wants us to do that, when you're publicly caning people for trying to do that? This is get rid. Sack him. Sack him.
I agree on that one massively, Pete, because I remember when he did that, just thinking, what are you talking about? And it was similar with the things he done to Tanguy. And in that moment, a lot happened after Dele lost the ball, didn't it? To still end up being a goal. And I think it all comes back to that idea again, like playing with fear and playing with like anxiety instead of playing with excitement and confidence. And it's as like, don't get me wrong, not that long ago we were top of the table and certain players were very confident, but that's what Mourinho does. He makes some players feel like they're 100 feet tall, but he makes other players feel like they're absolute piece of shit. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why it's become a bit harder, because as football's moved on, so has fixture congestion, and so has the need for a squad. Whereas Mourinho likes to create a unit of like 15 or 16 players that are him and against the world. But in modern football, you need about 25 players who are going to be able to have to come in and come. So in this moment where he's had a few players injured, it's like, shit, well, I fell out with Aurier, but I'm going to have to bring him straight back in because seemingly that made the players unhappy. I fell out with Dele, but now I actually need him because by the looks of it, Lo Celso's injured and I'm struggling with players. Kane's not doing so hot. I need to bring him in because I need something else. Oh, I fell out with that guy, so I need to bring him back in. That's the problem. How many bridges can you burn and not cause a like revolt, if you will, where the players are like, well, you don't believe in me, so why am I going to play? How am I going to play for you? One, I'm not confident, and two, I don't feel like I want to do this for you. You can even go back to like school. There were certain teachers that I loved, so I'd work hard in those lessons. There are other teachers I thought were bellends, so I just didn't really put any effort in. Ultimately, to my detriment, because the grades ended up bad. And the ones the teachers that I liked, good grades. So it comes back to that idea. But myself,
What would you do
I'd
then,
say
Jez?
what,
Yeah, go on. Sorry,
perfect
I was about
fashion.
to ask you.
It's quite good for what we've said, like how we said our mantras are, because Ollie's saying to keep hold of him. He's a positive guy. Pete, you've said to get rid of him. You're very negative guy. And I'm yeah, I think we'll just chop him in half. As a fan and as a football fan, I would want to see the back of him, because genuinely his style of football, and I believe it is down to mainly his style of football, I'm not enjoying football. I don't really want to watch. I'm watching and I'm looking at my phone and I'm thinking it makes me miserable to see my team play that way, and slightly embarrassed to see them not be allowed to express themselves, and there's zero entertainment. And going back to what Ollie said of, would I sacrifice entertainment? Because let's get it straight. We watch as fans, yes, to win, but also to be entertained. You don't want to watch anything for an hour and a half that isn't enjoyable to watch. I watch it to be entertained, and I watch it to see the soul of my club. And would I sacrifice both those things for a League Cup? No, I said that from the beginning. I wouldn't. For a Premier League title or for a Champions League, yes, you would, because those are massive things, and you have to accept it. A World Cup. If England went and stunk up the World Cup but won it,
we did.
No problem. Yeah, no problem. We'll take that. Like, you happily take it. But so as a fan, I would like to see him gone. But with my logical brain, or almost my business brain, I don't see who we bring in. I agree. And I also think you don't want to seem reactive. You don't want to seem like Chelsea. You don't want to just throw guys out the door. So we're all still in every competition. Could we win the Europa League and still get Champions League? Yes, that is possible, but that's unlikely. So it does concern me when people are saying like, hey, we could still finish 8th in the league and win the League Cup and the Europa League, and that's a good season. Yes, it would be, but it's very unlikely. I don't think from what I'm seeing right now, we'll be able to beat City. People say Mourinho's a guy for the one-off game. All right, he is. But I've just seen him lose 3 games on the bounce. All of those were one-off games. Every single game is a one-off game. So, yeah, he's good for finals. He's got a good track record. But I don't see how he beats City right now playing that way. I don't. I know he beat them earlier in the season, but they were not the same beast. They're on a run now, and they're doing well. And I imagine they'll continue that until we get it. And they'll probably have Aguero fit as well to make it even harder. That being said, yeah, I think you can't sack him, but I'm completely on the fence. If he was sacked tomorrow, would I be upset? No, I wouldn't. And you saying, Pete, like about Kane, if he gets sacked, how do you convince him to stay? I worry if you keep Mourinho, how many of those players aren't desperately asking to get out of the club?
Yeah, I agree. I did think that as well. That's what I said. Like, I said about if you get rid of him, you got to convince him to stay in that project. But I 100% agree, because seemingly it can't be fun to play in that. That way of playing cannot be fun for anyone.
Absolutely.
Unless, apart from maybe Højbjerg, who just loves defending.
I think Harry Kane is a very important role in Mourinho's future. If he keeps Kane on side, he stays. If at any point he loses Harry Kane, he's gone.
No, I agree. I think if he loses Harry, if we watch Harry come back, and apparently he might be back for this West Brom game, alluded to it, potentially not. But when we next see Harry play, if I watch Harry and he's not putting the effort in, the hard yards in, I'm thinking you're gone. You're gone, because I watched that Brighton performance and I thought that's a performance of a team that don't believe in their gaffer. Similarly, Chelsea, but slightly better. Still not great by any means, but a bit more running, a bit more effort in the second half, trying to get them to press. And Pete, you were right. They're a team that have not been taught how to press, because they go one at a time. And even the management, you can hear them saying, not everybody up. They're saying, Tanguy, go. Stevie, go. It's almost like maybe they are told to go one at a time, because I can hear them being told one at a time. But in terms of what I would do right now, if force of a gun to my head, I'm probably just about keeping Mourinho there. But I'm absolutely begging him to take the shackles off and to try something different. So if I was able to be in his ear and I was Sacramento or something, I'm asking him to please stop getting Stevie to mark centre mid. Please let Stevie stay wide. Can we have our front three just stay slightly higher and then allow them to be able to play? Can we let Tanguy get a little bit closer to the striker if we're playing him there? Ideally, at this point, and by the way, I'm not a fan of Delhi, I'll be saying, can we play Tanguy, Højbjerg, and then let Delhi play in front if he's fit and he's able? Can we just give him a go?
There is this room, wasn't there, that they went to his house, didn't they, to talk to him? Dele Alli.
Oh, really?
What, in a lockdown? Unacceptable.
No. They're different. They're footballers, Peter. They're not human.
Oh, yeah. That's where the money is, of course. Sorry.
No, there was a rumour that Mourinho, Sacramento, and Lily King went to the house and had a chat with him and tried to work out what's going on.
And it was them who robbed him.
And it was them. They stole his items and his pride and his footballing ability. But no, so that could be interesting when he is back fit. What happens with Delhi?
I'd love him to come good, man. I'd love him to come good.
It's mad though, isn't it? Because I think we're all in agreement, or we were all in agreement at the beginning of the season of like, Delhi's not the answer to your attacking midfielder problems.
I still don't think he is.
But when you get to this point, you ask about it, the same way the Arsenal fans were going, we need Ozil back now. Yeah. I don't think Delhi, to be fair, is the same. It's quite the same because there's definitely an argument that Delhi still can do a job for us as a club. But it was that sort of element of, we're strong for creativity, we're lost. What about that player that was good before? Let's bring him back in. Delhi might be that, but at this point, you just got to roll the dice. The same reason, like Pete, you saying, oh, why didn't you throw Bale on in the game last night? Exactly. Yeah, he's not playing well, but he's
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, but just roll the dice. You're losing 1-0. At least show the fans that you're trying to win.
Yeah.
That you're giving it a go, that you're doing something, because then they can't really fault you at the end of it. But what he did.
Well, that's like in the Brighton game, he said in the second half, I could not fault my players for what they did in the second half. What did they do?
We could.
They literally didn't create anything. Like, what are you talking about? And he's a spin doctor, so he will like turn things around. So like people saying, like, you've lost 2 on the spin, 3 on the spin. Oh no, you haven't won in so many games, wasn't it? You haven't won for this many games.
Yeah.
Yes, but we've only lost 2 in 9. That's still shit. 3 in 10 now. Like, it's still not good enough. You can't always spin things around to look good on you.
Yeah.
Like the whole world looking in, going, you're not playing. This is not a good team. You are gettable.
There was a great quote, I think it was from Peter Crouch, where he said that you're never a better player than when you're on the bench.
Yeah.
You're an amazing, when you're on the bench, you're the best player ever. And then when you play again, people are actually, it's actually pretty shit. But at least we tried. So there's that element to it.
That's a very solid quote, to be fair. Before we finish, chaps, shall we do a prediction for the West Brom game? Might be slightly solemn, but let's see how we go. We'll do the same as normal, the score, and then something niche. Potential for claiming for a sacking if you wanted to. But let's go for it. Ollie, what would you go for? Are we at home or are we away?
Home. We won 1-0 away. Late Harry Kane goal.
Yeah. A tactical masterpiece, that game. I'm going to stick with my trend of going for a win, because why not? I'm going to go for a win. I'm going to go for 2-0. And my niche prediction is that we're going to have 8 or more shots on goal.
On target or
no, on goal? Not on target.
Okay, yeah.
That's far too high. On goal.
1-1. And Jose to lose his shit and get sent off.
Yes.
I'll go 0-0. And the niche thing that I'll predict is that you will see not Jose get sent off, but you will get a little visual of Jose and a player arguing before the end of the game. That's what I'll go with the 0-0. But yeah, thanks, chaps. I appreciate it. It feels good to let it out. This is a safe place where we come together.
Weight off my shoulders.
Yeah, and I would say to anyone watching, well, obviously, like us, subscribe to us, be our friend, share us. Please make people listen to us. If you have to force your friends and family to listen, do
And comment, man. We'd love to see what you think. See if you agree with us, disagree with us. We'd like to discuss.
Exactly that, and we'll put
How
a
right
tweet
we
out.
are.
As well. Let's put a tweet out around this, and we'll say like we've had the big Mourinho debate, and we'll see what the general consensus is. Because I'd love to hear. I mean, I know it's a big hot topic right now, so let's see what the people are saying. Who would people bring in? Are they in? Are they out? What's the fan base? Because I am fed up with the pundits saying like, yes, Spurs, talking for Spurs fans as if they are Spurs fans, saying, look, yeah, it's not playing well. It's not. Spurs fans won't be happy watching that, but they'll take it if they win the League Cup. Because I don't agree. I wouldn't accept that. So I don't like it when I'm watching the pundits do that sort of thing. So let's get the opinions of the people, and then maybe we'll talk about them in the next episode, chaps. It'll be intriguing to.
I bet Danny Murphy said something stupid like that, didn't he?
Yeah.
He's actually been on TalkSport recently, the prick. But yeah. But enough of him. Thanks for coming, guys. I know you're not at the moment, so I'm not going to ask you.
No.
And a pleasure to everyone. But we love you. Please talk to us. Please be our friend. Bye, 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 bye.